CIG has completely changed the way the PTU waves are being handled, and many people are not happy about it. What's going on? I'm RedJay. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for sticking around. And tonight I wanted to cover something that made me actually pause editing my part 2 of 2 capital tier list video just to get to the meat of here. Wayne CIG dropped on us this afternoon on 8/10/2023 a complete change to the public test universe wave system. Now, for those not familiar, there is Evocati, which this is not impacting, although they recently doubled or nearly doubled the number of players that are in Evo, which are hand selected by CIG. And then the next step in the new patch cycle is to roll the changes out to the public test universe with a wave 1, 2, 3, etc. Usually it's only wave 1 and 2, and then all backers are allowed in. However, in some cases, they have to narrow down the waves to a considerable number of waves. And in the new design that Wayne CIG has posted, there are 5 waves that are completely upturned in the apple cart, in particular for concierge and subscriber balance and who has access to the public test universe. And also a way for people that are very active in the patch cycles to be able to get in before other folks, which of course they have taken part more in the community, and they have hopefully reported things in the council. I'm going to try to do one take on this. Just I want to make it seem like I'm not editing things out and not hiding anything and everything. It seems like that's more straightforward and more honest, and at least makes my soul feel a little better. But especially when it's a criticism video. The deal here is very simple. Once it leaves Evocati, who gets to be in Wave 1? Who gets the newest, hottest patch, which is very unstable, mind you, because it's still heavily in testing, but people that are diehards to the community and people that really, really want that new content or check out their new ship or ship that maybe they've been waiting for years, they finally want to get a hold of it, warts and all, and also be able to contribute into fixing it and finding issues early on, so hopefully they are adjusted. I think of the 400i in the test server being rolled out and then being changed in its landing configuration multiple times so people could figure out what could fit, what could not, and what was good for the safety of the ship. Whether I like the changes or not doesn't matter. What matters is the community at large is able to get a hold of it, test it out, and really enjoy it. It's not for everybody. Some of my friends, some of my org mates have said flat out that they don't want to go anywhere near the PTU. Not just because it takes up double the storage space, if not more, on your computer, and then of course you can delete it. It's only temporary throughout that PTU patch cycle. But more importantly, it is not stable. It is also something where you don't see progress. If you know there's not going to be a wipe in the next major patch, then the PTU is less feeling like you've had progress, especially if you don't have a few ships already. If you want to earn in game and truly build yourself up yourself, or build yourself up as an organization, you're going to want to spend more time in the PU than the PTU, and also not split your membership across multiple servers. However, when it's very long in the PU cycle, and the PTU has rolled out, many players that, especially the diehards, especially people that have been waiting for ships, as I've detailed, want to roll over the PTU, and only some will get the opportunity. The way they have structured it as of now is that Wave 1 is the top active players rated by hours in previous 2 major patch cycles. Subscribers, and that's all subscribers, the 10 USD and the 20 USD subscribers, so the higher and the lower package of subscribers for that month, and Legatus Navian Concierge level backers. That's code words for 25k USD backers, the highest of the high reward. We're talking about the 600i Executive Edition. Very few people have that level of spend. So you have 3 different options to get into Wave 1, which is the most desirable wave, because you can be in that wave and then you can continue to play throughout the other waves. As they continue to open it up more and more, you're still in there. And throughout the different patches, so PTU 3.20a, 3.20b, 3.20c, throughout those patches you get to stay once you're allowed in. So the top active players rated by hours is a problem, because as players we do not have access to this data. I don't have a tally in my settings on the website or in game that tells me how many hours I've been in game. Also, it opens up a serious issue of people that are using macros or other technologies or even just sitting at the computer and just holding the W key. How do they sniff those out and adjust for them? So basically, people are encouraged to waste server resources, just sit on the server in order to be in this top active players rated by hours. It doesn't say top active players rated by how much they earned or how much combat they did or how many missions they completed. It just counts the hours. And I believe that CIG chose this because they can't account for somebody who cheeses the system and completes 15 contracts in an hour, in a half hour, or something obscene like that. Or the other problem of they simply cannot track what you're doing that well, server to server, session to session yet. So the number of hours is what they're using, which it is what it is. If that's the best you can do and that's the most consistent thing you can offer, that's my speculation on that part, great. But I want to see my hours. I want you to be able to see your hours. At the very least, each player should know how many hours they have and how they stack up against these wave requirements, because the other waves have the same issue, where the hours is what they count. And it doesn't say 100 hours is this, 500 hours is that, or the top 5% of number of hours, and here's what that is at this current patch cycle, because it goes by patch cycles, would be very important. Also, it counts both two major patch cycles on each one of these for the active player count. So the active player hours. So it creates a really interesting situation where somebody could be super AFK for the past few months, but if they were in the past patch cycle and it was a lethargic year where not a lot of people were playing, somebody could come up from 6 months ago and be ahead of you in the ranks, even if you've been playing day after day after day for months. So it really creates like these interesting dynamics, but we'll have to live with those. I'm just really concerned mostly about the lack of transparency about the number of hours. And also, it could create something where players could keep track of things like, hey, wait a minute, I played all yesterday. Why don't I have 10 more hours on my account? And that's why I think CIG is trying not to show that. But by CIG forcing you to be in these waves without spending a considerable amount of money, basically they're forcing you to make this the new currency. Time is a currency. Number of hours you played recently is a currency. So if that's the case, then I need to know how much currency I have, how much I'm going to do. Do I know I'm going to be in wave 1 so I can talk with my buddies who also get to be in wave 1 for whether they're subscribers, whether they're super high level backers, whether they're top ranked active players as well because they've been on the same cruise as me. But we just have no idea if we're going to be playing StarCitizen 3.20 PTU or we're going to be playing something else that night. So when it drops. So I got to say that it's kind of a soul crushing feeling when you, from the early days, I can think back to times when you're not in that group, when you're not in that wave, and you realize that you're not going to be able to play in the PTU that night. And everyone else is posting up patch notes about the PTU. You can see them on the spectrum. People are posting up on Reddit, and you can't play. And you want to take part, especially people that are submitting to the issue council, that are putting comments up into threads and discussing things on the subreddit r/StarCitizen, and going on the discords and being active, talking about issues with new ships, talking about these concerns about new content and missions and such, and drawing attention to them in ways that would hopefully help. You know, that's kind of the goal here, is that this is still an active development game. This is not a product that has been packaged on a shelf and we're breaking the blister pack off and it's perfect already. As perfect as it can be, right? Now, the second group in Wave 1 is subscribers. And I've touched on that at the beginning because I didn't want to try to lead you off on this discussion about player ranking time without going into subscribers. But now it's time to talk about this a little bit more. Because of the nature of having subscribers in Wave 1, and I can't help but think this was marketing's idea, it essentially devalues Concierge. By having 10 USD subscribers, the lower level subscribers, be able to break out 10 USD, and from scratch be able to get into Wave 1 PTU, ahead of almost every Concierge level that effectively has devalued every concierge level but the highest one, Legatus Navium. And I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to show you that they were promising Wave 1 PTU in the past to concierge levels. They never said you need to be Legatus Navium in order to get that. And I apologize for my butchering of Latin. But if my English teacher was correct, no one even knows what Latin sounds like. We know what it's spelled like. We don't know what it actually sounds like because it's a language no one has spoken in many years. So who knows? Maybe I'm right. I don't know. But anyway, the way concierge levels work in the past is as you go up, you get these small perks that do grow in size, even F8C Hornets and F8C Executive Edition gold-plated Hornets and 600i Executive. But most people don't have all that, or they only have some of that, because remember, it's a ranking progression. Most people have the gold suit and maybe the energy weapon, and that's about it. The top hat, right, and the monocle. You know, they have really more straightforward bonuses. Those are just small perks. The real bonuses in Concierge is things like being able to join the PTU in Wave 1 and be part of every single patch cycle as much as you please, really. And being part of the Concierge forum, being part of the Concierge chat, being able to pick up new paints. Once again, there's nothing, and I don't think anybody could argue with special paints for Concierge. Just like for subscribers, they have special items they can get. Having a few things for Concierge is nice, and it just happens that it's paints usually. And yes, ship packages, which I don't completely agree with, but they're in the game. So let's talk a little bit about Concierge levels, specifically that are not Legatus Navium. What is if you're in this category, your ears are burning. So what's your deal here? Well, in Wave 2, the next top players ranked by hours in the previous 2 patch cycles come up. We have no idea how many players, we have no idea what percentages, and then Praetorian concierge level backers are included in Wave 2 as well. Praetorian's 15k USD spend. So this is the gold-plated F8C Hornet. If you have one of those, you're in this Wave 2. The only way to get to Wave 1 would then also be subscribing for 10 USD for that month, or being in the absolute most active players ranked by hours in the past 2 patch cycles. Once again, we don't know exactly how big that is. So Praetorian 15k USD is effectively less valuable than Praetorian concierge level 15k spend, which is incredible. I really hope these changes are rolled back, or I really hope that CIG rebalances these and brings that subscriber thing down a few waves and changes it up. So the higher subscribers are maybe Wave 2 or 3, and then the lower subscribers 4 or 5. It's my opinion. I know that's not going to be a popular thing for people that are super pro subscriber that are not concierge. However, if you're a subscriber long enough, you accidentally will become concierge. As a reminder, any spending is attached to the concierge level bonus. And once you hit that rank, that's it. You're it. So whether you want to or not, you will become it eventually. So now that we have the duality of concierge members and subscribers kind of being the same person in many cases, let's talk a little bit about the lower waves of concierge members, because some subscribers do not stay regularly subscribed. So if you are subscribed for, say, a 3-month period or a year or something like that, and it lapses at any point during the PTU cycle, you will no longer be having access at that earlier wave. So you'll have to fall back on your next best thing, whether it be from top active player count during that other wave, which then it won't matter, or being at a certain level of concierge level. And in Wave 3, you have Wing Commander, Space Marshal, and Grand Admiral. So basically, you have the entire sweeping array of 2,500 to 10K all in one wave, which once again certainly really says something to me about how these waves are structured, and it really is weird. But that's how CIG has chosen it. And then in Wave 4, the High Admiral concierge level backers, so the traditional concierge who just hit concierge or have not spent more than just getting in, are on wave 4, along with even more top active players that are lower than the other top active players in the other sections. And then wave 5 is open to all backers, the traditional all backers PTU. Now, 3 and 4 are kind of interesting to me, the way they structured them, because of the argument made by Wayne CIG, who states that we have done this structuring because there's too many people in the early waves of PTU, and we are trying to have more active people in there with less people, like more quality, and in the literal subject of the forum post, sharpening the tools is what he calls it. I I strongly suspect that there is only very few Legatus Navium concierge backers. There is a few more Praetorians. However, anecdotally, I know a lot more people that have self admitted that they're Praetorian, and I've seen evidence as such for many of them through fleet views and such. I am not going to go with specific names or anything, of course, out of respect. But I've done a lot of fleet talks with people, chatted with fleets with people, and the size and scale, and in many cases, literally confirmed massive fleets they have. And there's a lot more Praetorians. I've only know a handful of true Legatus Naviums. And then in Wave 3, you have Wing Commander, Space Marshal, and Great Admiral. I think they're all lumped together because I think that is a considerable number of people. I think that the Praetorian by itself is actually like this weird bell curve of people where the majority of people are kind of in that Wing Commander, Space Marshal, and Grand Admiral concierge levels. And then it's like, it's kind of like a bell curve, I guess you could argue. But it's not in linear order, like price-wise. I think there's a tremendous amount of High Admirals. I think that there's considerable amount of Wing Commanders, Space Marshals, and Grand Admirals. And then there's very few Legatus Naviums, and then Praetorian is kind of sitting in the middle of that weird group, where it's almost its own section of people. There must be a considerable amount of Praetorians by now. And for those wondering, if you're newer to the project, keep in mind that there are some people that have been here since 2012, 2013 timeframe. So you have to actualize the spending across over a decade in many cases. Or even if people have only been here 5, 6, 7 years, and I say only like as if that's a short period of time. In game time, that's dog years. It's like millennia, you know? And the thing to remember is a lot of that is probably tied up in CCUs. It's tied up in subscriptions. Once again, many people that are concierge tend to be subscribers, tend to be the more active players. Just over time, they slowly unlock concierge. It's not like you mad rush dash towards it. In many cases, I've heard from quite a few people, they'll CC you to a Carrack or something else that's there, and then bam, that's what set them over the top. And they didn't even realize they were close. There's actually a meme about it where the little kid is in the back seat and he's walking through the tablet, and then he realizes that his spend hits the concierge level, and all of a sudden a monocle and top hat's on his head, and he's panicking about it. That's a very real meme. Many of us have had that experience. And yeah. Now, as of 10:26 p.m. Eastern on August 10th, 2023, I can see that there's 103 upvotes and 267 thumbs down, 188 Picard face bombs, which is an excellent use of that emote, 152 angry faces, 129 face palms, and 118 puke emojis. Hooray. And I'm obligated to say there's 67 thumbs up. So what do we read from all that? Well, remember that people will use multiple emojis, especially when they're emotional about different things and very adamant about what their positions. So if I was to read this, the two things I'm taking away is I'm looking at the 103 upvotes, which is the generalized upvote for this. And most of those people, I would imagine, support these changes. However, I think some of these people are upvoting it to guarantee it has traction, it has obviousness. When it's not in the announcements forum, upvotes can help keep the product hot, so other people will see it and then see your comments below is the thought pattern. Or if it's your original post, they would see the entire thread that you're hoping them to see, and get more attention on it. So do bear that in mind. But I would imagine that most of those 103 upvotes are actual upvotes supporting it. And then the downvotes, the minus ones, are 267. And I'd imagine that every single one of those people is actually not happy with this. Now, if you go into the comments section, because generalizing these things on emojis and upvotes and downvotes is kind of a limited sense. When you read the comments section on this actual announcement on Spectrum that's heavily moderated, and then you go onto the r/StarCitizen subreddit, to its credit, is less heavily moderated and has some good discussion going on about this topic. And to the credit of many Discords across the realm, there is a lot of good discussion. And one of the things that I'm seeing time and time again is some people who felt there should be some changes to the PTU list, but that it is just too severe, or that subscribers are too high on the wave number, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, because I'm not trying to bury the lead. And I feel that that's probably closer to what people are upset about. And also the level of Concierge. If you're going to limit the Concierge levels, limiting it to the highest of highest levels that very few people ever reach is just, I think it's too far too fast. And we really can't see just how limiting it is, because we don't know how many people are in that top active players rank rated by hours in each one of these waves. And if me, you, anyone else, your org mates, your friends are in those waves as well, it would be very useful if we just had an at-a-glance thing even in our profiles on the website, and maybe even in the game loader, that tells you how many hours you have. And then we can start extrapolating from there. And ideally, CIG should put average hours for wave 1, average hours for wave 2. And dare I say it, even just lock you into a wave. So say, if you keep up with your current progression, you will stay in this wave. Now, there is some downsides to the rated hours. I believe it's one of the few things they can track consistently across many patch cycles and everything else with players, and that's why they're using it. But now that we have that out of the way, there is some downsides regardless of if it's a good idea to use or not. And the downside is there are going to be some players who can just sit in the game and do barely anything, and they will go up. And it also creates a really weird situation where you have players that will consume incredible amounts of server resources doing nothing, just desperately trying to hold their position because they can't afford a subscriber or don't wish to get subscriber for that month just to play in the PTU. Additionally, it brings up an interesting dilemma here. What are you trying to encourage? Are you trying to encourage activity in the PTU? If so, why would you do it by number of hours and not number of bug reports? Why would you not do it by number of missions completed or focuses that they completed? Those tracking tools, if they are not ready yet, need to be added ASAP. And there should, in this discussion, when this was released, that should have been crystal clear that this is the way we got to do it for now, but understand this will be changed again when we have the ability to track quality of work and that it's going towards the focuses of the PTU. As a reminder, the PTU, much like EVO, to a lesser extent, but much like EVO, has testing focuses. Certain new content is added, and it is asked of CIG that people take part in that content and then report back or provide feedback or just basically flood the server and just do that content. So if you're off doing mining and they're trying to test salvage and they're trying to test market mechanics of selling salvage and buying salvage, etc., you are not helping. You're just doing your own thing, testing the new mining laser or something like that. And that's probably fine sometimes. But if you're just doing nothing but ignoring the focuses of the testing, then the quality of what you're arguing, you're trying to get this higher quality player, you're not encouraging it. And I don't think there should be overhanded moderation to force people to do these things. It should be more encouraged of, hey, you will go to higher waves in the future if you complete at least some of your time in testing focus. Like 40% of your time in the PTU is doing things related to testing focus, is in the ships we need to test, is in the stations we want to test, like the upcoming Seraphim station that's replacing Port Olisar, rest in peace. I really hope to see it again very soon. But in another realm. But honestly, it is very frustrating to see this, and that the tone-deaf nature of the way they've rolled this out is just so considerable. I know this is getting long-winded, so I'm going to kind of wrap this up very soon, but just understand that I I strongly suspect CIG will ramp this back a little bit. So once again, if you're listening to this in the future, please look at my end credits, look at the pinned comment below if you don't want to wait for them, or look in the description. I'll probably try to update that too. I will definitely release a follow-up video if they make changes because it's my obligation. I don't want to sit there and cast aspersions and these things. And they did fix the concerns that people had, or at the very least met the player base halfway. I think that this is not something to be reveled in. I don't like the fact that it's creating this divide between the subscribers who haven't been around long enough to be concierge and the almost creating like this have and have nots atmosphere that's reversed that will create a lot of animosity in the community and also maybe turn a lot of people away from the PTU. So I just want to end on that, is that the reason I made this video is because I feel like this has a larger cooling effect on testing in the game. People that don't get into Evo, whatever, it is what it is. But the PTU is supposed to be for everybody. And the way the waves were set up, where they were pretty large, that was quite good at getting people in that were interested in taking part in the testing. CIG should emphasize this. There should be more resources put to the PTU than the live by the time you're done the live servers. The live servers start toning off, especially when I know for a fact there's going to be a wipe. Like CIG has straight up said, hey, by the way, in the next patch, there's going to be a huge wipe because we have to, because too many people are doing the mule dupe. And there is, you know, the economy needs this and that, and we need to change this. But we're going to do a LTP wipe, a long-term persistence wipe. My inspiration to go into the public server, if there's a PTU available, wanes significantly. So of course I want to go check out the new content, because either way it's going to be wiped. Whether it's the PTU, which by the way, every patch, every change of the patches, you get wiped again, or it's in the PU. And I would be remiss to not have something positive to end on. So please do try your best to take part in the PTU. If you haven't already enjoyed it in the patch cycle, there's no extra cost if you are in the waves that you're there. There's no surprises or anything. If you're in the wave, you will see it on your loader when you open up your RSI launcher. It will be there as the PTU. The PTU does take up space, but remember that you can copy your PU over to your PTU as like a new folder, and that will allow you to skip all the download, but it will still store, of course, like 70, 85 gigs, something like that, depending on which patch cycle we're talking about. I think we're up to like 85-ish now. Will include in the cards my latest PTU build out video and discussion, and I encourage you to check out some of my old videos if you want to see what the energy is like in the PTU. I would skip around them, I mean, because they're very specific to those patch cycles, but they are quite fun time capsules of what we were dealing with back then, and they are some interesting stuff. Thank you all. Don't forget to like this video, comment below what you think of what's going on. Have a good one.